Very warm welcome to all of you. First of all, congratulations to Prem for this wonderful conference and this wonderful topic. As we have seen the experience of millennials, and when he said this topic with me, I also try to catch up with 2, 3 such millennials. And one of them was saying, who owns this mutual fund company? Tata, Birla, because it looks like a big company, because they are doing a lot of advertisement on the TV and all. So that's the ground reality. But I think it's a very serious topic for all of us, because in next 5 to 10 years, they are going to chart the mutual fund industry when it comes to number of investors as well as the assets as well. So we are going to discuss about their thought process and experience of all the distributors stroke advisors. But I think we'll structure this panel in such a way that by end of this session, we'll take some few tips and we'll really implement in our business and to create a good case out of it. So I'll start with Mr. D.P. Singh. He's a very experienced person in a mutual fund industry from SBI Mutual Fund. DP, what's your immediate reaction on this category, and how you see how it will going to figure out in next five years from now?
Thank you, Jignesh bhai. My thought is that when I was hearing the voices of millennials and when I was looking at it, I think the basic need today is change the narrative of investments. There's a very thin line between savings and investments, and the people feel that whatever surplus they have to put in bank accounts. So first thing first is to offer a product which is very similar to the banking product, very similar to and rather than asking for a 2,000 rupees SIP or 3,000 rupees SIP from a millennial, we have to change the narrative. The distributors as an industry, we have to change the narrative. Why don't you save through mutual funds rather than investing through mutual funds? We have got so many smart saving products within the mutual funds. I think once we take them, once we change the narrative of our discussion with the millennials from investment to savings or smart savings, I think they are smart people. Most of the millennials, they are using smartphones. Why can't they use the smart savings? And all of us know that there are so many smart saving products available. And out of those smart savings only, a part of can be put in the investing, long-term investing or equity. So I think that is the need of the hour. That is what we need to do. And if we are able to do that as an industry, as a common thing, I think 5 years down the line, the most of the surplus of individuals in the country will be with the mutual funds rather than with the banks.
So taking the clue from DP, I think what I feel is on the one side, their thought process are, very casual. They understand the very simple message and, casual language and all. And on the other side, mutual fund is a very highly regulated industry where as the earlier speaker rightly mentioned, that it's a complex language and all. So my question to Mr. Naik is, when you go and meet such investors, how you explain them? What are your tools to convince them about the mutual fund or about the savings or about the investing? Because I see it's a big challenge. If you want to communicate to the large audience, then within the restriction of the regulations, I think the communication is one part which is very critical. So I think all of us would like to understand your style and your thought process on approaching them and communicating with them.
So I think, first of all, I must congratulate Prem for a wonderful insight. And it was like showing the mirror to all of us about what people think and what we think that what people think. is a huge difference. And I'll give you a small story about a millennial. A young fellow was referred to me by a friend of mine for a job. My team interviewed him, and he came and met me for the final round. So Prem talked about postponement of gratification. So he walks in, everything was fine. He was very humble, very nice, very knowledgeable. So all parameters in place. And end of the interview, he tells me that, sir, I will be able to join after 35 days. So I said, why 35 days? Because he said, because I'm going out on a vacation for 28 days to Australia. So before the job could even begin, it was his first job. And I was like, what does it mean? He said, because, it was my dream to go to Australia. So before he could start even earning, his dream was achieved. And I asked my colleague, isko kya bolte? So he said, isko IT mein bench pe baithna bolte hain. He's made you sit on the bench now for some time till the time he comes back. So this is what it is. They don't want to postpone their gratification. Most of the times we talk to them, there are two categories in this. People who are 30 plus and people who are below 30. People who are below 30 cannot think beyond 3 years. People who are above 30 cannot think beyond 5 years. So these are the two categories that we see. And we've seen that talking about retirement, talking about child education below 30 is absolutely not a... So one thing that connects with them is the social reference. And if all of us must have seen yesterday's Times of India front page, there was a photograph with a girl clicking selfie with 7-8 of us, 7-8 of them for voting, after voting. Previously you used to see stars photographs on the front page. And this is how the narrative has changed. Earlier it used to be what stars are doing, I want to do. Today it is what everybody as a community is doing, what I want to do. So the social reference has changed completely. Earlier it used to be what the successful people are doing, I want to follow them. Today it is what their friends are doing, is what they want to follow. So this is a big game changer. If we anchor them to their friends, if we anchor them to their community, the communication becomes far more easier. Like I said, beyond 3 years, beyond 5 years is something that they can't see. And I think we have to constantly put ourselves into their shoes. And the challenge that we face all the time is unlearning what we've learned from this industry about jargons, about, they need very, very basic, simple solutions. They don't need products.
Good. So have you created such marketing collaterals for them which are in a very simple language, or you hold seminars and there you have a very young speaker who talk to them in their language, or is there any such?
Yeah, so what we tried to do as an organization is, we had to keep our average age below 30 for these people. And we had to start recruiting people who are below 30 to talk to them. It is very difficult for them to connect to people who are at a different age group. Secondly, the big difference that we've seen is, people who are 40 plus are very, want to have their portfolio very discreet. They want to keep their holdings, keep their investments to themselves. Whereas these people don't mind sharing it with each other. And that is where we're trying to work on some tools where they will be able to share what they're doing without really getting into the amounts aspect. But I think that building that community is more important. And going forward, I think most of the stuff, we've created some tools, some presentations. There are some movies which have been created by some of the mutual funds, which are very, very useful for these guys. However, I think going forward, the communication will be built by this community itself.
Great, yeah. So, taking a clue from Mr. Naik, madam, what's your view, and it's the right time to get into this space, or it's too early or too late, or what's your view on this, and what kind of initiative at your organization has taken to reach out this audience?
Hi, good morning, everyone. And I think before I start, I must admit, it's amongst the most well-attended seminars I've seen in a while. I walked in late, and I don't remember the last time I had to wait for 20 minutes to find a space to sit. And I'm grateful for picking up the topic on millennials to get started with the conversation. And the reason it's important and not too late is, I'm sure all of us are aware, but I just want to reiterate, because I was just looking at some data. So we all of us know India as a young country, right? And we know about 1/3 of the population is millennials. But there are, I don't know how many of us and a lot of advisors in the room there today are aware that about 50% currently of the wage earning population are millennials. And in 5 years, that will be 75%. So that's the demography, that's the economic force that we're talking about, and therefore they're not fringe. They're extremely central to any sort of financial planning conversation that happens. And I think the more important, and for me the more important part was, if you really look at it, I think there was a survey by Deloitte for the top 42 countries. Indian millennials are the second highest in terms of excitement and optimism. So you have a large force out there, wage earning, excited, optimistic, positive, and it's very, very important for any organization worth its salt to be able to engage with them in a meaningful manner. It'll be oversimplification to say that they sort of, all of them have a similar traits, and I agree with my last panelist when he spoke about the fact that, they're a lot more consumption oriented, they're a lot more about living it up, they're a lot more about here and now than saving for the future, and that has implications in the way we connect with them. And also the fact that most of them are digital natives. So apparently in 2 years, every single millennial in India will have a smartphone. They consume about 17 hours of internet time every week. They cannot stay away from their smartphones. I'm sure that's true for all of us around as well, although I'm not a millennial. But that has implications in the way an organization engages with them, right? The way, if that's the amount, if smartphone is your access to the rest of the world, the way you access information, the way your attention span, your ability to make decisions and all of that is heavily sort of guided by that. So as an organization, and I think I was sort of standing there and I was hearing the very interesting video that was put up. I think there was this gentleman, Shadab, who was talking about, jab samjhega nahi to karega kya? And that is where the maximum amount of validation happened. The whole group there was sahi hai. Because the risk is also about familiarity, right? If you don't get it, then, bank deposits are also pretty scary. So to address this, amongst the first things is because they're not very familiar, investor education obviously becomes extremely, extremely important. If you're not able to make them, if you're not familiar, if you're not aware, if you don't connect with it, then you will choose. Because at a very basic, intuitive level, risk is your ability to dimensionalize your worst case. And if you don't understand it, you're not comfortable with it. And the whole conversation about beyond bank deposits sort of goes for a toss. So I think as an organization, amongst the first things is we realize millennials are a very powerful economic force. To be able to connect with them, they're a lot more comfortable with digital, and therefore the way they access information and the way we reach out to them, that's one of the most important things that we do. Investor education obviously is a lot more relevant than the others. And so more than 30s and the whole prominence of the, if it's about consumption, if it is about a lot more here and now, and the goals are really not very far out, you engage with them on terms that they understand it really well. So these are the few things that, as an organization.
Any specific initiative taken by your firm to reach out this?
Largely on, the way they access information is a lot more digital than from a traditional point of view. So we sort of pay. So if you really were to do a broad brush, there are 3 kind of millennials. So the inheritors, born with a silver spoon, attitude very different from, however, the earlier generation. That's, as a private wealth management firm, that's amongst the areas that we work very, very closely with them. Sort of equipping them, taking them through the journey and so on and so forth. But that's a lot more focused activity. For the rest of them, we use digital as a very, very significant way of reaching out to them and communicating with them.
More from investor education, creating content from different groups and all.
That's right. That's right.
Good. Yeah, it's a good.
So one of the things that we've done, Jignesh bhai, is one of my marketing guys with us for 8 years, and he's not attended a single fund manager meeting. To keep the communication very, very simple. We wanted him to stay away from market jargons, not learn market jargons, so that he speaks the simple language.
That's important, yeah. So we all know the opportunities. I think my focus today in next 20 minutes is to come out with more ideas and probably that will help to improve the practice of all the IFAs and distributors. So you are coming from a foreign bank background. I think, can you just share what's your experience even in US to handle such audience? And even in India, what's your plan and how you interact with them? And is there any specific initiative which you have taken to reach out this audience in particular?
Thank you. One of the myths that we'll break, first of all, is we are a little ahead of the US, frankly, as a country, because we frankly have the largest millennial population or any population to that extent. So some of the things that we have done specifically to address the millennial or the new to wealth clientele is that we laid out a set of rules and said that whatever we say has to be highly personal to these folks, has to be very simple. I think we heard it on the videos as well, that security or the secure nature of the channel is something that is very, very important to these people in their minds, right? And most of the things have to happen real time. So with these principles, we did launch a product around January this year, which is called IRM, and it specifically caters to the salaried segment. Now, this is a large population of our country which is getting into the salaried band, tier 3, tier 2 town folks coming into metros and so on and so forth. The growth story is immense. One of the first things that we realized was, yes, keep the language extremely simple. Very non-bank speak, if I can use the word. So no longer, we continue to enjoy your patronage and so on and so forth. It's as simple as, hey, everyone's talking about mutual funds. What is mutual funds about? So, in fact, if you go to the app, the language is as simple as that. So people tend to associate very strongly with certain simple language. They're able to clarify their doubts very quickly. And of course, if it is fairly intuitive, or I know in the digital landscape, as you said, it's very difficult to personalize. You are painting the brush very, very strongly and very widely. But it is possible to use technology in the right way and, have a hyper customization to each client. So this is where, certain insights about clients as to which life cycle or which life stage they are in comes into play. So for example, if someone has just started receiving their salary last month, I think there is a very different talk-off that the digital app should be able to provide in terms of insights rather than anything else. And I think I appreciate one point, DP, you made is that, convert this whole concept of savings and investment into very seamless thought. Save and invest should be said in the same breath rather than anything else. So when you manage a liability book business as well as a investments business, it becomes important for at least banks or even a lot of financial organizations to make sure this toggle is very easy in the customer's mind, rather than say, hey, I bought a bank product, now am I buying an investment product? That may not work.
Yeah. So, sir, my question to you is, what's your experience in terms of their risk tolerance? Because there is a mixed opinion about their risk tolerance. Some group of people say that they are the risk takers and some that they are the risk averse. What's your view? And the second is, when in terms of their preferences, their focus is more on satisfying goal or more on to the absolute returns? So,
okay, morning everyone, and two very interesting set of questions actually. Answering the first part, I think before we get into that, what we have done as a platform is categorized millennials into 3 brackets, right? Being a small platform gives you that flexibility to go razor sharp in terms of what you want to target, basically. So I think when you decide that the age bracket is 20 to 35, typically, you have that 20 to 25 kind of an age bracket, which is not married, which is getting into the first job, still studying, don't have a lot of money at disposal, small amounts of investment, basically 500 rupee kind of things, 1000 rupee kind of things, typically wants a demo account, typically wants gamification of the entire process, wants a lot of sample things to see, and then the ticket sizes are small and it requires a lot of at that point in time, you require complete usage of technology to target them, right? So out there, if I call off risk preferences, the risk preferences are very different. They are right now open in the world, they're willing to try, and the bets are so small that they don't mind losing it, basically, right? The second segment, which is 25 to 30-year kind of a bracket, that's the segment where people are typically getting married. They are getting into a family life. They want to plan something. They want to have some goals. Typically, they want experiences more than things. So they are going for travel kind of goal plannings and goal settings. So gone are the days when people will go onto a digital app and plan for a retirement kind of a goal, basically. To be very honest, people these days customize their own goals. They want travel as the key experience which they want to take up. And exactly what you said. So Australia, kind of plans which come first before any other financial plans actually. And the third bracket, so the second bracket, the risk tolerance is fairly moderate. They are getting into the world of investments, the ticket sizes are a little higher. However, they are very, very tech savvy, which I think the other panelists also mentioned. So they are quite comfortable with usage of mobile. There's this interesting study which says that millennials, 3 out of 20 actually is the percentage which wants to keep a TV. And there are like 17 out of 20 people in the millennial bracket who are just not comfortable with TV. They want everything on their mobile screens, right from Netflix to Hotstar to whatever. So the content strategy has completely changed and the risk tolerance is completely changed in that bracket. And when you move to the last bracket, which is the 30 to 35, that's where people are married, they have kids, and that's a different bracket to tackle with. They want some amount of data, they want research, they want comparisons, they want to check everything, even if there is an advisor who goes, that particular millennial guy will go and revalidate the same thing online. He will go track 3 sites and check whether the data given to him or the recommendation given to him was perfect or not. So this is the segment which is typically a phygital segment, which is a digital plus a physical handholding kind of a segment. So the risk tolerance out here is moderate because they are getting into family life, they have children, they have responsibilities, they want to plan a bit longer. This segment is also a little skeptical because that's the only segment which has actually borne the brunt of financial crisis. So this was the segment, 30 to 35 years of age bracket, which was looking out for job in 2009 and 2008, basically when the financial crisis happened. So they have those psychological impacts in the mind where they're skeptical about banks, they're skeptical about the financial system, they will revalidate everything, they will go and question out everything. And finally, they are the ones who will go check out a thing on the retail shop and then order it online on Amazon, basically. So it's a very, very typical segment, right? So you have to cut it out very sharp and fine. What segment are you addressing to? And each of these 3 segments, I think, have different risk preferences.
Yeah. So I think we all are agree that they need a very simple communication. They are on the smartphone, need a good quality content, easy to understand and all. But my question to DP is, if we look at the current bandwidth of advisors, there is a fall of around 40 to 50% in the new ARN registration with the MFI. And so my basic question is, who are going to talk to them? Do we have any plan to create millennials advisors who can talk to the millennial investors? What's your view and what's the plan of mutual fund industry as a whole?
Jignesh bhai, I think this is the most challenging position today because whatever has happened because of the regulatory, and I will say intrusion or whatever, I don't want to use the word intrusion, but the thing is that it's very, very difficult to get the new young distributors come into the fold because of the economic viability of the whole business, because of the new changes. So the challenge is, and now the responsibility comes on the early distributors, the big distributors, national distributors, as well as on the fund industry to communicate in a very, very simple manner about the concept, about as has already been told, we can't push the products anymore. The moment you start pushing the products, you are gone. When you have to put it in a very, very simple language. Now the responsibility is absolutely on the industry. When I say industry, it's as the manufacturers and distributors put together. That the communication, whatever is created, now the content creation is not that easy a job. The content creation has to happen at the MFI level, at the fund house level, and has to be used by the distributors in a big way. We need to really work on that. Today, I don't think something concrete has been done as of now, but there is definite need.
One or two ideas how we can bring new advisors into the fold.
New advisor, the issue is the economic viability, because the upfronting being banned. So the new distributors can be brought in if somebody somewhere has to fund their business upfront. But that is a challenge. Who is going to do that? Today, though this business doesn't need any working capital, but at least if somebody is putting his heart and soul into it and 100% into it, then he or she needs to earn a minimum of some amount per month. But that is becoming very difficult for the individuals. That is where the role of the big distributors, the fund houses come into force. That's what I'm saying. No concrete step has been taken, but there's a need of discussion, need of taking a concrete step towards this. Maybe we have to engage with the regulator also and see how the economically viable solution can be brought on the forefront, so that we can get more and more number of distributors, because number of distributors is definitely a big challenge. And if we go by the data which is coming from the RTAs or MFI, the number of new distributors being registered is coming down drastically. And I was told that 70 to 80% of new EUNs which are being issued are that of employees of various banks or the sub-broker category with the national distributors. But that is also a challenge, because how to fund their business. So that's absolutely a challenge. If you ask me what is the idea is this only, that somewhere somebody has to take a step forward and see, yeah, we will be funding this business and we will be taking a risk, and that something has to be discussed. As of now, that nothing concrete is there.
Okay, fine. So it's a challenging task. You require a lot of capex to build the new breed of advisors and all. And as Madam and Sir rightly said that a lot of these youngsters are on the digital platform and all. But I have one simple question that today if you look at across the e-commerce side of it, it's very expensive to acquire customer. The average cost of acquisition of a customer is more than 1,000 rupees. The average lead of acquiring customers on the e-commerce platform is more than 200 rupees. So what's your view? I think it's viable, and how I think everyone can participate in this, because it's a very, very important question, at least in front of me, that if we are able to even ready to spend money on the digital side of it, but it's very, very difficult and very, very expensive to acquire customers online. So one side DP said that it's very difficult to create a new breed of advisors, because it's required a lot of upfront money, it's required capex. And on other side, if we look at online, organic is very slow, and when we go to the paid kind of a version, the cost of acquisition is very high. So I think it's a very critical question. So we need views from all of you.
I'll probably start. Specifically, I think it's a very valid point. The cost of servicing is a constant pursuit of reduction, right? So because the engagement dynamics are changing so much, we do require that the clients to be met with. The clients require an elaborate discussion of sorts, irrespective of age or size of portfolio. They need that kind of a hand-holding and support. So for us, it's always been a pursuit of reducing the cost of servicing as such. One of the things that we can actually use this whole digital outlay is in the fact that you create a lot of engagement through video conferences or chat modes or audio on data and these kind of things which appeal to them. See, most of the millennials, while it's the topic, or most of us also, interact with everyone on WhatsApp or a FaceTime or a Skype when it comes to, there's a sense of formality around Skype, but nowadays even a WhatsApp conference call or a video call is perfectly accepted as a business mode. So the important thing is for us as distributors or advisors is to reach out to these clients through those modes. Because one thing is about striving for an increased productivity or the number of clients or the unique client transactions that we can consistently build upon. And of course, ensure that the quality of what you say, what you recommend is also maintained at a very standard basis. Of course, digital routes behoove the fact that you fulfill in a very fast and simple manner. So it's all about, I would say, redefining a fair set of relationship management aspects, making sure we reach out and utilize digital as a stronger mode of phygital, as you said, in terms of VCs, etc., and work that out. So cost of servicing is one aspect that we must keep. Recommendations and cost of advice or quality of advice will stream through. And I must make a point here that just because one has a great brand or a legacy company doesn't mean that the millennials get appealed to it. It's all about the engagement. I don't think they really are, they care about the big global brands or the big national brands, nothing of that sort. It's about that moment of truth when in a secure channel, they're actually interacting in a personal manner.
I have a couple of points on this one, and again, so the cost of acquisition is fairly high when you go the digital way. And there are typical two ways of acquiring clients when you want to go the digital way, either the organic or the inorganic way, right? The organic is a painful, long-drawn process, but trust me, with the kind of experience we have in this room and all of you running your businesses for so long, you should go for the organic route, which is writing blogs, writing a lot of content, producing your own video. Video is a new thing in the market, right? So if you're targeting millennials, specifically age bracket 25 to 30 or 25 to 35, you have to go video. You can't be posting on Facebook long messages. You can't be posting pictures or something like that. You have to write original content. You have to post short videos, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, at best 2-minute videos, which are informative, which carries a message and which carries a concept, basically. And that's by far the most proven method of acquiring clients. And it's turned out to be the most effective and the cost-efficient manner. TikTok has actually beaten YouTube in terms of video consumption in this country. And there are like 27 million YouTube consumers in the country, bound to go up to 50 million, basically, in next 5 years. So video is the thing. Go for video, go for original content. Organic is the way to go. Inorganic can cost you huge amount of money. 1,000 is in fact a smaller amount you are saying. To be very honest, with the kind of new digital players which are coming up, this cost is going to multi-fold. So my take will be always organic.
So actually I tried venturing out into digital, and I traveled all the way to a new country called Bangalore, because for us, Bangalore is a new country. And I met a couple of guys who do digital marketing for some of these large platforms. And I asked them that what it takes for, me to start doing digital marketing for Naik. So he said it's quite okay. And some of these platforms spend as close to as 3 lakh rupees or so. So I said, I'm okay. I will start spending about 2 lakh rupees or 1.5 lakh rupees a month. So he said, hello, wait, 3 lakh per day. So that's the cost we are talking about. And there's so I completely agree with him that it's stupid actually for people like us to really compete on that side. The one thing that they've not done, which Jignesh Bhai's platform has done beautifully, is managing the client once the client is onboarded. So the call that we took was, we want to deal with 30 to 35 set of millennials. Let the larger guys, the platforms, acquire new clients. They anyways drop 60% of clients next year. That's the SIP stoppage that we see. And we handhold them because there's very little work, whether it is insurance. And I've done a lot of work on the insurance digital side because I have an insurance broking firm. I have seen on the mutual fund side, they've done very little work on managing the client. And I think that's far more crucial for all of us. And I think for people like us sitting in this room, phygital is the way to go forward.
I just wanted to add one thing. It's a tricky one, right? How does one talk to these millennials? And a lot has been said. I sort of agree with that. There are 2 or 3 things that's sort of given. One is the risk appetite counterintuitively is not very high because the investment horizon is not very high. Most of the information is consumed digitally. The good news is they don't seem to care, at least the early ones do not seem to care a whole lot about big brands, and therefore it's an equal opportunity space. So customer acquisition, and the biggest influencers there are their peer groups, and I think someone spoke about that very rightly, peer groups and the social media. So ability to personalize and create a brand there to get the traffic coming your way, because these guys are also a lot more DIY. We self-medicate. You Google and you think you know all the answers. So customer acquisition, maybe if you're able to do a positioning and be relevant to the set of influencers that matter to them is important. But I think the crux of the matter is how to handle the engagement digitally. And digitally is not about one more interface. I have 200 advisors and this and that, and I also have a website. But actually digital as in the DNA, to be able to get to the mindset of these investors and arrange around that. So I think, yeah, using digital DNA to engage a lot more easier than to acquire. But to acquire as well, the good news is that you needn't be a very, very, very big brand. If you are able to be relevant in the circle of influencers, it's not very difficult to get some traffic coming your way.
Yeah. So now we have 1 minute left. I think the last...
One last point, if you allow me to. As I say, what I feel is sometimes we always say that the product push should not be there, solution push should be there. But while creating a solution, sometimes we confuse the consumer, confuse the person by over-diversifying the array of products which we are pushing. I think that has to be simplified. I'm not saying that when sometimes we say 10 schemes for reaching out to a solution, 5 schemes, 3 schemes from different fund houses. You please create a simple solution, but the solution has to be very simple with 1 or 2 or 3 brands. I mean, if we over-diversify, that also kills the whole spirit of the thing. That's what I mean.
Good. So time is up, and thank you everyone. Thank you, Prem, for this wonderful panel, and we got a very good idea from diverse group of people, and thank you all of you for joining with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.